Hey everybody, Jason Shadrick here, and we are back in our PG headquarters office in our live stream guitar lair with Jon Stickley from the Jon Stickley Trio. You're in town last night playing a show. You're nice enough to squeeze in your schedule to come in here, and we're going to talk about guitar, we're going to talk about pedals, we're going to talk about Bluegrass expensive guitar picks, and all that stuff. But first, let's kick it off with a song. John, so what's going to be the first song you're going to play?
Do a little bit of this one, Blackbird Brothers.
Blackbird Brothers. And this is off, which album is this off?
This is off our EP called Triangular.
Cool. Let's hear it. So John, tell us a little bit about how there's some elements of newgrass stuff in there, some more modern acoustic things. Tell us a little bit about how that song came together.
So that was a tune that I actually wrote with my brother. He had come up with this first part. I was like, what's that? I was like, we got to make that a song. And so I came up with a little second part. Comes up with the darker parts, and then I made that little happy part. So,
you kind of balance it out.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time picking with him, and we just jam bluegrass tunes and fiddle tunes, and so that is the song that really kind of came out of that flat picking, rolling kind of bluegrassy style. And I noticed
we're using some like traditional cross picking in some of the sections.
Yep. It's the whole song is kind of based on cross picking, but there's the one part where I use the open strings.
And so can you, for some people who may not be familiar with cross-picking in a bluegrass style, can you give us a quick explanation of what we mean when you're describing cross-picking?
Yeah, it's basically it's almost emulating like the banjo, where you have 3 fingers on your picks, and you do a roll of 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you basically just do it with a flat pick, and because in bluegrass, you want as much volume as possible, so you don't really use your fingers as much. So there's a lot of different ways you can cross pick, down, 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 up, alternating, but it would be something like this. This is down, down, up, so down, down. And then there's a kind of an up and down pattern I use a lot. And then I'll do it over full chords a lot too, like down, 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 up. cross picking, you know, you're picking every string
Yeah.
in the chord.
And so it's kind of a combination of alternate and economy picking almost, but
Yeah, it's pretty metal.
it's very metal. So you definitely have a bluegrass slant to your music, but anybody who's, you can almost pick any random track off any of your albums, and they'll hear anything from breakbeats to super fast, almost metal style syncopated rhythms. So give us a little background as to how that kind of your non-bluegrass influences and your bluegrass influences kind of came together.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I've always been involved in music my whole life. Played in garage bands, and I was a drummer for a long time. Took guitar lessons in high school. But it wasn't until I heard the music of the David Grisman Quintet and this new acoustic music, Bela Fleck, Tony Rice, all these guys, Norman Blake, Larry Keel, these flat pickers. I was like, man, kind of changed my life. And then the whole culture of bluegrass jams and jamming, you know, it's that's what really drew me to all of this. Because I went to my first jam and I was like, I want to do that. I want to be able to take a solo when it's my turn, you know. So I went down that rabbit hole for 10 years or so, all through college and everything. I was just jamming, picking, playing bluegrass, flat picking guitar. And then years down the line, ended up starting the trio and wanted to incorporate a rhythmic element that I was kind of missing in the traditional bluegrass format. So we have a drummer, and then we have, of course, the wonderful Lindsay Pruitt on violin. And when I started writing music for the trio, that's when I started digging deep into my musical past and thinking about things other than bluegrass that I liked and thought were fun, and kind of incorporating beats. You know, I've always loved hip hop, so flat picking over different rhythms and beats turned into something kind of new and fresh for me that was really stimulating. So it's so like playing along to a Lil Wayne album or something.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
It's like you can flat pick to that. But you know, in bluegrass, you kind of have it's pretty simple. You know, the foundation for what you get to play over. It's
The harmonic setting.
Yeah, it's pretty repetitive and the same all the time. So just wanted to throw in some different sounds and experiment with it and just have fun, really.
So you mentioned that first Dave Grisman record. Was that also kind of your first exposure to improvised music? Because I know you were a big like alt rock Carolina, North Carolina fan of Superchunk and all those other bands, and probably not a lot of improvisation in that style of music, at least intended improvisation.
Not a lot, not a lot. I would say it was, you know, and just getting into flat picking and bluegrass, the way you improvise a solo. Because I didn't even like, you know, music that had solos that much. I wasn't a big classic rock fan, and so I liked you know, power chords and hard driving rhythm. But then once I got into the whole picking thing, I was like, man, wow. And that led me kind of to jazz and stuff. I'm like, oh, well, now I hear it's kind of like, wow, it's kind of like bluegrass. The
ability to have this shared group of songs that everybody seems to know, and when it's your turn, you can kind of push the boundaries of what.
That blew my mind the first time I experienced that. I mean, I remember that. And then through, you know, of course, through flat picking, you get into Django. And then through Django, you get into jazz. And next thing you know, you've got this whole other thing going on. So.
And one tune you played last night that I think really demonstrated that well is Tico Tico.
Oh, yeah.
Can you break that down? That was a Brazilian tune. Can you share a little bit of that with us and kind of how you approach that?
Sure. I would say, you know, my approach is probably a little more bluegrassy, a little more straight and angular, not as much swing to it. But let's see a little bit of that song now. So yeah, very up and down, very straight, and then of course the cross picking part.
Right. Cool. So another thing that's not only is the instrumentation of your trio not a typical, let's say, bluegrass trio, and your approach is different, but also kind of how you set up your sound with everything. So we're going to kind of walk through your setup here, which is basically the same exact rig you would play on a trio show.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this on premierguitar.com, if you look below the embed, you'll see a picture of his pedal board. So that way you'll be able to see kind of what we're talking about here. But let's start first, John, with the guitar you have here. And last time you came through, you had a Martin, which is still kind of your main, but maybe you just retired it from your Rode.
Oh yeah, short break. Needed some repairs, and there was just one too many cracks for me to feel good about flying around and going to play outside in Colorado in the snow.
Yeah, and that's a
56.
56, okay.
Yep, and it's been my main guitar for the past, 17 years.
Right on. So is this the first tour you've brought out this particular one?
I've actually been playing this one since June.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's had some miles on it so far.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. So this is a Griggs?
Yep, it's a Griggs. Really great builder out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. There's a lot of good guitars coming out of there now. I know the pre-war guitars are down there now making some really cool.
The brand name pre-war guitars.
The brand name pre-war, yeah. But Griggs, man, these are really high quality instruments. This one is, you can see the light wood there on the headstock. That's the sap wood of African blackwood, which is kind of a very dense, dark rosewood. And it looks like this. It's almost black, but then you can see the sap layer here. And it kind of runs along the edge too. But yeah, and the top's moon spruce from Italy. Forward shifted, X bracing, kind of modeled after a pre-war D28. And then super wide spacing down here and here. So it's almost got like a classical guitar kind of feel to it. Which is a big change up from the Martin, which was in the 50s, they're pretty narrow, especially 56.
Yeah.
So this is a big, full, deep, low indie sound that I really like it for the trio, since we don't have bass.
Yeah, exactly. So we're out of your guitar into your pedal board. So where does your signal start?
All right, so it goes into, I've been using this LR Baggs Venue DI for years now. One of the most trusted pieces of gear out there, I think, and a lot of people probably agree with that. Just simple EQ on it. Yeah, and then I guess get into the effects loop. Talking about effects, the first effect that we even really added to our band, because for forever we were just straight up, fiddle, guitar, through an amp, drums. But the game-changing pedal that we added first was this Pog. So I have the micro Pog, and what the Pog does is gives you a sub-octave. So I can go down and play bass behind Lindsay's solos. And so that was, as you can tell, that was a total game changer for me. It's like, oh, I don't have to strum anymore. I can play some low indie bass lines. So I use it for all sorts of. But you can also do some high up stuff with that too, which is really fun. You get kind of an organ. Super fun pedal, really easy to use. So that was the biggest pedal that we ever got.
And I noticed how, at the show last night, how seamlessly you and Lindsay switch off on that. It seems like that almost takes some extra choreography to, like, right in time, you're switching off to solo and she's switching it on to cover bass stuff.
Yeah, so she has one for her fiddle too, and she actually has the Pog too, so she can get her fiddle down 2 octaves and the tone that comes out of that thing is so fat. It's crazy. It's like way fatter than mine. I'm kind of jealous. But, so yeah. And then I would say, you know, the next thing that I wanted was the trippy, spacey sound. So I was just at my local music store and grabbed the classic Boss digital delay pedal. And
is that a DD? Which one is that?
It's a DD3.
DD3, okay.
Yep, and I've been really happy with it, you know. Just So yeah, we're not like total gearheads or anything, but everything we grab has a you know, very specific purpose, and we use it a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. What's next after the delay?
After delay, Holy Grail reverb pedal. I keep it set on the hall setting, turned up to about, you know, 8 o'clock, just to have kind of just a blanket reverb over everything.
Is that an always on thing too?
Always on.
Yep.
Yeah. Every now and then I'll take it off if I want like a really tight, distinct sound and I feel like doing a little extra work with my feet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just leave it there. You got a little, you can hear it a little bit, but just kind of helps get rid of that, you know, pick-uppy acoustic.
Give some air to the sound.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And then most recent addition, the stall hammer. The stall hammer is by Keeley, and man, I just love this pedal. It's so this is for when we want to get really heavy, and
what Bluegrass pedalboard would be complete without the stall hammer? I mean,
good question.
You know? I
don't think any of them. So
give me an example of a song in the set that you'd reach for a stall hammer.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. I use it a lot for cacophonous moments. Okay, so there's one point in the song where we're coming out of a big, long solo, and then me and Lindsay get into this, this kind of unison picking part, and it sounds a little bit like this. So that would be the little break, like it's crazy, the drummer's just going off. That's when I click on the stall hammer, rock that bass line to Lindsay's just freak out, and then we stop, and that is just me again on the simple arpeggio. So we do a lot of those stark transitions of
dynamics.
Yeah, I guess you could call it. Yeah.
What song was that?
That was a part of Point to Point.
Point to Point, yep.
And then there's another part in Slow Burn where I kind of like to, you know, relive my 90s punk rock dreams, you know. So
as we all should.
It's a heavier part where I just palm mute, you know.
Dig it. All right, so we got stall hammer, And we have the ubiquitous tuner, of course.
Yeah, Polytune. That's so cool, man. The way you can just strum across.
Yeah.
That's really been a game changer for me live.
Oh, yeah, I saw a couple times last night you just hit it on and strummed all the way across.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like, rarely do you need to hit every string. So you don't need to sit there and go through every one on stage. When you can just give it a quick strum, it tells you, all right, it's your G. Just up that G a little bit, boom, done.
Or if your A string's a half step sharp.
Yeah, so something happened last night. Somehow that happened, and I tried to, the whole song, I was trying to retune that A string, and I could not do it. And I was like, I can't stop the song, but I probably should have at this point. I got it by the very last chord. It was perfect.
That's all that matters,
yeah.
as long as you end it in tune.
Yeah.
And then finally we got the ditto
down
there.
Yep, love the ditto. And
tell me about how you use that in a set.
So in a set, mainly, we don't do a lot of rhythmic looping because it's just something that we haven't quite, it's tough to get a band to get with a rhythmic loop, and if it's off, it's off. It's way off. And then so what I'll do is like end a song and use it to make a kind of tweener soundscape that grows and grows and grows, and then I shut it off and go right into the next song.
Okay.
So I would do something like,
Big and loud, right back down. I dig it.
Yep. Works every time.
Every time. Now, so we got through the pedal board, now we're off to the amp. Tell us a little bit about the amp that you played through.
So yeah, this is what we tour with. It's basically just a Fender Rumble 500. And this has two 10-inch speakers in it. And it's, basically a glorified practice amp. It's like, I think it was 500 something bucks. And it works great for acoustic guitar in our setting because it's nice and big and full. You can kind of get the depth and the punch of actually playing an acoustic instrument as opposed to a small, guitar combo amp. It helps us with the bass pedals, and yeah, it's basically super lightweight and they've been extremely reliable. We've been, Lindsay and I have both been using one for, I guess, probably the past 4 years. And they have just been totally good.
Right.
Yeah, can't recommend them enough.
I mean, I would imagine it's tough to find the right amp that can handle the low-end stuff, but yet give you enough clarity for an acoustic instrument. Yeah,
yeah, we looked around a lot, and I tried a lot of, acoustic guitar amps and guitar combo amps, and it was just, the main thing was using that bass pedal and not getting it to overdrive and distort. So these have like a really clear high end.
Because you guys, for a trio, play awfully loud, I will say.
Yeah, we play pretty loud, yeah.
Play pretty loud. Cool, so another thing I wanted to ask you about, which is a theme that's kind of run through some of your compositions, is the influence of Tony Rice. And back to the delay pedal, one of the tunes you played last night in the set was Rice Dream?
Yes.
Right? So can you tell me a little bit about that song and how you kind of used the delay in that song?
So yeah, it's Rice Dream, it's super dreamy and spacey, and the whole song is kind of like relaxing, and you know, it's not super picky, so it would be a. You want to hear a little bit of it?
Please.
All right.
So tell me the story behind the title of that song, because I gotta say, not a lot of that gave me visions of Tony Rice.
Well, he does do a lot of that harmonic stuff,
Yes.
but that was just one of those tunes where, you know, I have dreams about Tony Rice sometimes because
As we all should.
I love his music so much, and he's so cool. But that was just an early morning kind of thought, kind of like sleepy, breakfast table, picked up my guitar and started messing around with an idea. And that one just kind of popped out, and I had ended up having a dream about Tony the night before, and then I was looking at the table. The Rice Dream is actually rice milk that you can buy at the store.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, wow, I had a rice dream last night. And so that became, that's where that song came from.
I get it. And is it on every record you've fit the word rice in? is somewhere you've kind of stuck it in? So tell me a little bit about kind of what you've taken from Tony's playing over the years.
Yeah, so flat picking guitar is pretty aggressive. And there's, you know, it's kind of like gypsy jazz guitars. There's a lot of notes you can fit in, and there's a lot of notes you can fit in without putting a lot of thought behind it. And everything I've ever heard Tony Rice do on record has been some of the most artistic, thoughtful music that I've ever heard. So that's vocally, his guitar playing, and the way the records are produced. They're just extremely beautiful and stylistic, and it's something that you don't really think of when you think bluegrass guitar. You know, you don't think of like style, taste, and you know, just a element of cool, kind of like a la jazz.
Yeah.
You know, so that's something that really stuck out to me with his playing, and as I've worked on, you know, playing guitar, I want to do things that are different, stylistic, and you know, kind of make at least some type of statement.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, not just rattling off as many triplets as I can, which I do a lot, but.
So what was kind of, growing up in your more developmental years, what was kind of your process for developing a bluegrass vocabulary? Since you weren't like a you know, a 9-year-old prodigy rolling into these bluegrass festivals,
Right.
You know what I mean? You were kind of into music before you came to bluegrass relatively late.
Mm-hmm.
What was kind of your thought process and method for incorporating that vocabulary into your playing?
Yeah, so yeah, I didn't even hear bluegrass until I was, 17 or 18 years old.
And growing up in North Carolina, that's quite a feat, I think.
Yeah, I knew the Beverly Hillbillies, but that's about it. So yeah, the first thing I really wanted to do was just learn how to do it. So I was learning out of tab books from Tony Rice and Clarence White and Norman Blake, just picking out the notes and then trying to emulate the sound. I knew there were distinct things that they were doing that made it sound like bluegrass, G runs, and I knew it sounded. It didn't sound like how I was doing it with my pick. I knew there was something different there. So started looking at as closely as I could at the traditional stuff and how they were doing it, how they played. Like, what did their right hand look like when they strummed the guitar? Like Carter Stanley. Why does it look like that? And just trying to emulate that as best as I could, because I wasn't really thinking about. I wasn't planning on doing this for a living. I just wanted to do it right and have fun. So started really just paying close attention, like I guess you would in jazz, trying to get at the root of that traditional sound, that simple sound. And it took me forever just to be able to do that simple bluegrass G chord strum, and then get to the. Sometimes that simplicity is so hard to achieve, coming out of a totally different world. So that's something I try to keep in my head all the time. We could be playing whatever song, super fast, crazy stuff, and it's like, dude, think about Carter Stanley's right hand and how it looked. It's so mellow and so relaxed, and it's like, man, you can do anything. And they play at top speed too. It's like you can do anything if you can just stay relaxed enough.
Right.
So,
and that I noticed last night in some of the more up-tempo, like ska-based rhythm stuff you were playing, you still kind of have to have that relaxed hand to get that strum.
Yep. And it's like, it's gotten really technical, and the music we do is kind of really out there, but yeah, really try to stay true to that traditional vibe of, this is folk music, bluegrass, acoustic, old time. It's like, it was made to be easily picked up by anyone, just to have fun with.
Yeah.
So just try to stick to that, because Lindsay, of course, is like completely classically trained and a jazz virtuoso. So I don't know that she's thinking about old time guitar rhythm as much, but.
So let's end it up here. Thanks again, Jon, for coming in. So where can people go online to find out more about your never-ending tour, your new albums, and everything else Jon Stickley related?
JonStickley.com, and of course Facebook, Instagram. We're all just Jon Stickley Trio. Twitter, and we're all super active on that stuff. So yeah, the tour is never ending. We're at the end of 3 weeks right now, and we are just getting going for the year.
Yeah, so tonight you're going to be playing in Davenport, Iowa. People watching, and tomorrow is Chicago. Is that right?
Yep.
As they're watching this, but everything else past that, they can check out the website. Speaking of Tony Rice, how about we end with maybe Jerusalem Ridge?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how this tune, this bluegrass standard, ended up on the new record.
Well, we always like to do a tribute to our traditional, bluegrass roots, and so this time we decided to go with Bill Monroe, the father of it all, and play this tune, Jerusalem Ridge, and it, I think he was feeling kind of metal on that day that he wrote this song because it's kind of a metal song in a way, and especially the treatment that we do with the trio is gets a little shreddy sounding. So. Maybe I'll play you a little bit of kind of what the trio arrangement sounds like.
Dig it. All right, thanks again, John. Thanks again, everybody who tuned in and watched, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.